Hello everyone. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from what I normally do and showing you how to give SubQ fluids to a canine. So to get started, some of the things that you're going to need are either toilet paper or paper towel. You're going to need your IV lining. This is actually a secondary tubing line. You can use primary tubing. The difference is secondary, as you can see, is kind of a shorter line. Primary has a much longer line, and it has connections to inject different medications into the line. You're going to need an IV or a needle. This is a 21 gauge. Typically, you're going to be using anywhere from 18 to a 21 gauge. 21 gauge takes a little longer to use, but it still works fine. And then you're going to need your fluids. Typically, your vets are going to be prescribing lactated ringers. It's slightly different from your normal saline in that it has more electrolytes in it. So it's better for the dog. And then you're going to need to set everything up on a easy to use workspace where you're not going to be straining your back or anything. So let's go ahead and set this all up and get started. Okay, so to start, you're going to open up your IV bag. So normally it comes in this packaging here. You just tear it open like that. Pull it out. Next, you're going to want to connect your IV tubing. So you open that up. There's a couple of components that come with it. We'll be using this at the end of it to hold everything. So to start off, you have this little round thing here that's going to pinch off the tubing. So you want to turn it off, and what it does is it turns off the flow of the fluid. So by pushing it and rolling it all the way forward, that stops it from flowing. So you're going to want to spike it into your IV bag. And so on most IV bags, you have two different ports here. The one on the right with the blue cap here is where you're going to spike it. The one on the left is where we aren't going to be doing this, but what you can do is inject medications in there with a needle. So that's what they do in hospitals and stuff. So you normally have a cap on the spike here. You pop off the blue cap like that, and then you just spike it in. It takes a bit of twisting and turning, and you want to get this on there tight. And that's pretty good right there. So you can see it kind of goes up to there. So next, you're going to prime it by just squeezing that and getting some fluid in there. Since you have this shut off, it's not going to leak out yet. Next, you want to connect your needle. The proper way to pop this out, if you puncture it through, you see that a lot. That's actually really bad form. You're not supposed to do that. So you open it up. Obviously, don't touch it. The end of the IV line also has a cap. So you pop that off, and then it screws in, just like anything else. So my dog's being a bit goofy right now, but most dogs, when they need SubQ fluids, they're not feeling good, so usually they're going to be a little easier to work with. So you want to set them up on an easy surface to work on. You want to flip them, lay down. Basically so that they're flat. You want access to their shoulder blades right here. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to pull the skin up right here, and you're going to be puncturing the needle through this flap of skin right here. So first, we need to prime the needle and get all the air out of the line real quick. Okay, so you're going to want to take the cap off of the needle. Be sure that you don't touch the needle to anything. And you want to get all of the air out of this line. So to do that, you loosen this off. I'm just doing it into this bag. There you go. You can see a little bit of the saline squirt out. So you want that so that you're not just shooting air straight into your dog. And then roll it back so that it shuts off the saline squirting out of the needle. So the reason you want to set your dog up is, since I have the needle here, I don't want it touching anything. Make sure that they put their head down. If you're not comfortable with this, you'll definitely want a second person to help hold the dog down. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the needle and you're going to tent up the skin right here, because this is where the fluid is going to go. And so, as you can see, you're going to puncture right in and just bury it in. Close it, and once it's in there, you're going to open it up. So roll that back. you'll start to see it drip. Now this is a 21 gauge needle, and so it's going to take a lot longer. Hopefully you have an 18 gauge, and those don't take as long to do. So to help the process along faster, what you can do is you can squeeze the bag to put pressure on it to try and get more fluid into the dog faster. So as you can see here, our dog is cooperating really well. You might have to hold their head down, but you can see this little bump start to happen right here. And it's going to get bigger and bigger, and it looks really gross at first. But you just keep going on it. So this is going to take a couple of minutes while we're filling our dog with fluids. And so I was going to explain a couple of things to you. Now your vet is going to prescribe to you so many milliliters per day. What we like to do for our dog is give 250 milliliters once in the morning and once at night whenever we give her SubQ fluids. So this entire bag is 1,000 milliliters. And so we're just going to keep squeezing it and let the fluids flow until, if you hold it up here, until this line goes down to right there between 200 and 300 milliliters. Each of these represents 100 milliliters. So the reason that you're even giving these fluids in the first place is that, like our dog, she was born with too small of kidneys. And so her body isn't properly able to filter through the different toxins that are in the blood. And so she constantly drinks a ton of water to try and help filter and push all of those fluids out of her system. Occasionally she'll get dehydrated and not drink enough water for the day, which gets her dehydrated, and then her kidneys, she doesn't have enough fluid in her bloodstream to be able to filter out those toxins out of her system. And when those toxins are in her system, what it does is it causes the dog to feel like vomiting. It makes them nauseous, which only compounds the issue, because when they're nauseous, then they drink even less water and they'll throw up. And they have even less fluid, and the toxins build up even worse. So the entire purpose of doing these subcutaneous fluids is so that we can get fluid straight into the bloodstream without having to go through her stomach or her digestive tract. And so she's unable to throw it up. It gets into the bloodstream, and it helps to filter out the toxins that they have. So you can see how cooperative she's being. She almost looks like she's melting with it. She actually loves these fluid treatments because she feels 10 times better afterwards. So as you can see here, the hump that starts to form, it gets bigger and bigger, and it's gonna look terrible, but that's just how it's supposed to look, and it's perfectly normal and perfectly fine. Okay, so as you get towards the end of the bag, I wanted to show you a couple of things. What I like to do is I like to roll the bag up like this. It helps to put pressure on it so that it'll go a little faster. You can squeeze these things as hard as you want, and they're not going to pop. They're designed to put a bunch of extra fluid in them and not pop. I've seen them dropped from, like 6 foot onto concrete, and they still don't pop. So don't worry, you're not going to pop the bag. But you're going to keep squeezing it and try and get all of the fluid out of here and out of the line, and you'll see it start to come down here. So you can see it's starting to drain out. And this tube is emptying. What I like to do is you can watch it, and I like to stop it once it gets to somewhere close to the dog. You don't want to be pushing a bunch of air in there. You just want the fluid. So you can watch it go down the line, if you can see it real well. And then, let's see, okay, so there's the first bubbles. I like to stop them somewhere about right there, just so I'm not pushing air into the dog. And then you're going to pull the needle out, and I'll show you that in just a sec. So, I've already gotten to the point where I've removed the needle. I've covered up my dog, as you can see, because she is cold. But I'll get to taking out the needle in just a sec. To hang up the bag, though, I wanted to show what I like to do is I just take a hanger. There's always a little hole here in the top of the bag. You just hook the hanger through like that. Each IV line comes, or the secondary or primary tubing comes with this little plastic hook thing here. since you discard the needle, you can get these needle caps, or the IV caps. It just screws in, just like the needle. So it just screws on there, it just caps it off so that nothing gets in there. What I like to do is hook the line on here, and then you can just hang it on something, hang it on like a doorknob or something. That way it's not going to leak on anything out of the lining or anything. And it'll be good until the next time that you use it. So when you've reached the amount of fluids that you want to give to the dog, what you're going to want to do is have some type of either paper towel or toilet paper ready. You go ahead and shut off the flow of the fluids. So just roll that forward and set this down now. What you're going to want to do is basically pull the needle straight out and cover it right there. And what you're going to want to do is immediately cap the needle. This is a special cap so that you can't reuse the needle, just because it's not sanitary to reuse needles. You're going to want to put a little pressure here because you did puncture the skin. Either a little bit of blood could come out, or even a little bit of the fluids could flow back out. Yeah, just barely a little wet. She obviously needed it because her body is absorbing it pretty well. So you can see this is a pretty good hump, and if you feel it, it's actually pretty cool to the touch. So they're going to be a little bit cold from it. Over time, this is going to get absorbed into the body. For our dog, a lot of times it'll go down her shoulders. It looks really gross, but it's perfectly normal, nothing to be worried about. Sometimes it'll go into her neck, nothing to worry about. I'd say within a couple of hours, she'll be perfectly normal, back to her normal self, full of life, energetic, wanting to play. She is going to need to go to the bathroom. Your dog will need to, so you need to make sure that they have access to be able to go to the bathroom so that they don't have an accident, because they're going to need to go pretty bad in a couple of hours. But anyways, that's pretty much how you give subcutaneous fluids and why you would give them to a canine. So hopefully this was helpful, and thanks for watching.